Well, for more now, let's go straight to our guest now. Dorian Barak is on the line for us. He's the co-founder of the UAE Business Council. He joins us from Dubai. Dorian, thank you so much, firstly, for coming onto the show. Obviously, this is a first for Israel with any Arab state. How significant is this, being such a wide-ranging economic arrangement with an Arab state?
Well, thank you for having me. Actually, it's quite unprecedented to see trade grow from such small levels to such enormous levels in such a short period of time. We estimated that the trade this year between Israel and the UAE would be around $2 billion. We've exceeded $1 billion just in the first quarter, as Minister Al-Zayudi announced at the World Economic Forum. These are enormous numbers, and they reflect the fact that the UAE is fast becoming a major trade hub for Israeli companies looking to trade overseas. In fact, UAE and Dubai in particular is becoming the place for Israeli businesses to target the greater Middle East, South Asia, an economy of 1.7 billion people, and even the Far East, displacing in some cases other trade hubs that Israeli companies typically set up in order to target these incredibly fast-growing markets.
Mentioned in the snippet before, obviously this is a move aimed at boosting trade between the two countries, but what else do you think the two nations hope to boost and get out of this agreement as well?
Well, I think this reflects more broadly the integration of the region. The fact that Israelis, and we're speaking here of around 1,000 Israeli companies, could find this as a place that's hospitable, a place where they have extraordinary trade links throughout the region, where they're welcomed, where they're able to operate efficiently, to hire some of the best international talent, which is quite easy to source here, I think has profound strategic implications for Israel's integration into the region, and also for Israel's place as truly a part of the, let's call it the business ecosystem for which Dubai is so famous.
Do you think, Dorian, as well, that this agreement is ultimately about removing barriers and promoting comprehensive trade and new technologies for the nations?
I think the agreement creates a lot of certainty around taxation, protection of intellectual property, how trade will be managed, all the logistics and administration that is part and parcel of any trade strategy. So as a statement of the country's intent to formalize this, it's super important. But I can tell you, Israeli and Emirati business people, they tend to operate very, very quickly. They don't wait for the government. So you already have literally, hundreds of Israelis who are making the UAE their home, who are visiting here either weekly or spending or moving here permanently. I also think that you're seeing a real welcoming within the trade and commercial community here in UAE, where they see Israelis as really an integrated part of the fabric of commercial life here, alongside Brits, Emiratis from the region, Arabs from elsewhere, Indians, Europeans, and even Americans. And I think this comes on the backdrop of a growth that is faster and deeper and more significant than anyone could have anticipated. Don't forget, trade in 2020 was around $50 million. We have $1 billion just in the first quarter. I don't think we've ever seen trade numbers like this.
Dorian, thank you so much for all that expertise and for coming onto the show as well. Dorian Barak there, the co-founder of the UAE Business Council, joining us from Dubai. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's move on now. Israel, there is a dire travel warning for its citizens currently in Turkey due to an imminent Iranian threat there. According to reports, Israel has directly called 100 Israeli citizens who are in Turkey and told them to leave and return back to Israel. That's after Israel's National Security Council on Monday issued a public travel warning saying there was a concrete and immediate threat to Israelis by Iranian terrorist operatives there and in nearby countries. Well, apparently there's an Iranian infrastructure that is planning to act right now as well. Recently, the Mossad thwarted Iranian efforts to target senior Israeli figures and Israeli business people around the world. But after those failures, Iran is now widening its target to ordinary Israelis in Turkey. Israel is also fearing that Iran is about to target ordinary Israeli tourists there too. The alleged Iranian plot is a response to the assassination of a senior officer in the Islamic Revolution Revolutionary Guard Corps last week, which Iran attributed to Israel. Well, let's go straight to our defence correspondent now. Jonathan Regev joins me in the studio. So, Jonathan, yesterday when the travel warning was issued for Israelis by the National Security Council here, it wasn't as dire and it wasn't as imminent. But today there's more immediacy to it and there's direct warnings.
First of all, the Iranians are not even hiding it. They posted out some names saying these are the people, these are some of the people that we are looking for, and Israelis in Turkey are set to call back. Turkey apparently was not surprised by this travel warning issued by Israel yesterday. Israeli authorities told their Turkish counterparts already last week that this is something that will happen. Maybe there are concrete threats, and maybe the understanding that Iran is looking for some kind of a revenge, understanding that as far as the Iranians are concerned, Israel is behind that assassination of a senior figure in the Revolutionary Guards a few days ago. Of course, no comment regarding from Israel. Israel is not taking responsibility, but the Iranians are saying too many times the Israelis acted on our homeland without taking responsibility. For us, as far as we're concerned now, Israel is responsible and we will strike back. The concern is, of course, that it will happen on the Turkish soil. Let's remember Turkey borders Iran. It is quite easy for Iranians to operate in Turkey. This travel warning also may come as a wake-up call first to Israelis within Turkey to come back, for Israelis thinking of traveling to Turkey, maybe not to do it, but also to Turkish authorities, because any terror attack targeting Israelis in Turkey will not only be a major blow for Israel, but also for the Turks.
You say also that Turkey was aware of the dire travel warning, but it's also believed that Turkey expressed disappointment and frustration prior to knowing.
Of course, because by saying this, Israel is saying that maybe the Turkish authorities and their security forces are not enough to guarantee the security of Israelis in Turkey. Of course, they want to present themselves as people that can preserve the security of everyone visiting there. Israelis among them, and more Israelis are currently in Turkey due to the fact that relations, after more than a decade of constant worsening, are now somewhat improving. There was a visit by Israeli President Isaac Herzog to Turkey. There's a visit by the Turkish foreign minister only last week to Israel. So relations are improving. Israeli tourists love Turkey, but it's maybe time to rethink that. And unfortunately, if we look back at history, there have been terror attacks against Israelis and against the Turkish Jewish community, various attacks by Iranian agents in the past, and the concern is that it may happen again.
Jonathan Regev, thank you so much for all those details and for bringing us the very latest on that story. Well, we're ducking up for a short break now. When we do get back, the European Union agrees on a partial ban on Russian oil imports. This also cutting a huge source of financing for its war machine. This is i24 News. We'll be back in a tick. Stay tuned.